The tale unfolds in a mystical realm shared by 9 distinct races: dragonutes, elves, oneests, dwarves, demons, dark elves, centaurs, beastfolk, and humans. Among them is a young man named Light, a hopeful adventurer determined to leave his humble hometown to seek fortune and strength for the sake of his family. Upon arriving in a bustling city, Light struggles through the crowded streets while searching for the Adventurers Guild. When he finally steps inside, he introduces himself to the receptionist, who offers to register him as a beginner. She explains that every newcomer starts at the lowest rank, F, and asks if he has a special skill. Light reveals his unique ability, Unlimited Gacha, which lets him draw random cards and summon items from them. Curious, he demonstrates by summoning a rusty fork, leaving the receptionist speechless. Flustered, he tries again, but only manages to produce spoiled food. Embarrassed by his poor luck, Light earns nothing more than the lowest rank and receives his adventurer's card. When he asks about available quests, the receptionist points him to the job board, only to realize that Light can't read. Pitying him, she reads out the tasks herself, and Light eagerly accepts simple chores in hopes of earning some money. After a full day's work, he finally gathers enough to rent a room. Unfortunately, his relief doesn't last. A gang of beastfolk ambushes him, their leader striking him down and stealing his hard-earned coins. The wolf-headed ringleader mocks Light's weakness before leaving with his laughing crew, while the surrounding crowd ignores the beaten boy. Just when he feels completely abandoned, a kind elf approaches and helps him up. Though embarrassed, Light is touched by her compassion. She introduces herself as Sasha, and alongside her companions, she presents the Concord of Tribes, a group of adventurers representing 8 of the 9 races. The beastman Geru explains that they are searching for a human to complete their fellowship. Shocked yet honored, Light accepts their invitation to join. Together, they venture into the Abyss, a treacherous dungeon. When a massive worm monster lunges at Light, Geru cuts it down instantly. Another attacks from behind, but Sasha saves him with her bow, then scolds him for his recklessness, warning that the Abyss is no place for carelessness. As she tends to his injuries, the others tease her for acting overly protective, which leaves her blushing and defensive. Trying to lighten the mood, Drago praises Light for always making excellent tea for the team, which boosts his spirits. With their morale lifted, the group pushes deeper into the dungeon. When they finally stop at what looks like a dead end, Light assumes it's time for a break and begins preparing tea for his companions. Just as Light is preparing tea for his companions, Drago abruptly tells him there's no need, because they are expelling him from the party. At first, Light assumes it's a cruel joke, but Drago's stern tone makes it clear he's serious. One by one, the others echo the decision. Geru explains that their group has no use for him, while Sasha mocks his foolishness. Even Sion and Nano join in, belittling him as worthless. Confused and hurt, Light asks why they would betray him after treating him so kindly before. Geru reveals the truth. Their kindness was an act to lure him in. They only wanted him because of his unlimited gacha ability, hoping it would make him a legendary powerhouse. But since it only produced worthless junk, they now see him as nothing more than a burden. Geru sneers that he's just a talentless human who is destined to fail. Sasha even admits she's glad to be free of him, dreaming instead of marrying her master rather than staying tied to someone so pathetic. As Light reels from the betrayal, the group decides they can't just let him go. He knows too much. Geru slashes his cheek to draw blood, and the others coldly watch as he tries to flee. Sasha shoots an arrow into his leg, forcing him to collapse in agony. Geru kicks him brutally, enjoying his suffering, until Sasha reminds him they must make his death look accidental. Preparing for a final strike, Geru raises his claws, savoring Light's desperation as he crawls for survival. Just as the end seems certain, Light's hand presses against a hidden teleportation trap. Drago urges Geru to kill him before it activates, but the magic whisks Light away in the nick of time. He awakens deep within the dungeon, battered and bleeding. Fear grips him as he realizes that, in his condition, even a weak monster could finish him. Memories of his family and of the party's false kindness break him down into tears, but sorrow soon gives way to rage. Betrayed and abandoned, Light swears to exact vengeance on them all. His vow is interrupted by a chilling presence. Turning, he finds a terrifying level 1 Orthus beast staring him down. Shocked that such a creature exists here, he realizes the teleport trap must have sent him to the deepest layer of the abyss. With no other option, Light desperately spams his unlimited gacha ability, praying for a miracle. At last, a massive magic circle appears before him. Light stares in disbelief as his gacha device radiates an overwhelming aura, summoning an ancient fairy before his eyes. The mysterious being instantly recognizes him as her master, and with effortless grace, slices the monstrous Orthus into pieces. Its remains scatter across the ground, and the fairy lands gently, clearing away the debris with a flick of her hand. Kneeling before him, she heals Light's wounds with magic and apologizes for acting without permission, saying she couldn't bear to see him hurt. Shocked, Light introduces himself, struggling to believe he has just pulled one of the most powerful fairies in existence. Enchanted by his name, the fairy repeats it fondly before swearing her eternal loyalty. When Light awkwardly asks for her name, she introduces herself as May, the legendary ever-seeking maid, a level 99,999 super ultra rare card. At first, Light doubts her words, insisting his gacha only ever produced junk, but May assures him that he's worthy of her and begs him to accept her as his servant. Moved by her sincerity, he agrees, and May thanks him deeply. She then asks permission to appraise his ability, revealing she possesses the skill. With his consent, her eyes glow as she analyzes him, discovering that his gacha holds layers of hidden power. May explains that the reason his gacha seemed useless was because the surface world lacked mana. In contrast, the abyss is overflowing with it, allowing his ability to draw far stronger results. She clarifies the ranking system of his cards, from the lowest error rank up to extra and super ultra rare. To her, Light's survival and his pull of her card prove his true potential. But when she praises him for coming to the abyss, Light bitterly reveals the truth. He was betrayed by his party, beaten, mocked, and left for dead. As he vents his pain and recalls their cruel words, tears stream down his face. Collapsing to his knees, he declares he will never forgive them. May embraces him gently, promising to use her power to give the Concord the punishment they deserve. Light, however, refuses to take the easy path. Though May urges him not to show mercy, he insists on becoming strong enough to defeat them himself, without relying solely on her might. May is impressed by his determination and pledges unwavering support. Smiling for the first time since his betrayal, Light activates his gacha once more. Fueled by the abyss's infinite mana, giant magic circles appear around him, summoning incredible tools and weapons. With May by his side, Light takes his first steps toward building an empire, one that will ensure his rise and eventual revenge. 3 years have passed since that fateful day, and Light now reigns over a grand palace filled with hundreds of devoted maids. True to her word, May remains faithfully by his side, just as she promised when they first met. The maids adore their master, cheering him on eagerly whenever he appears, thrilled just to be acknowledged by him. May, ever the strict one, reminds them to maintain proper decorum as Light steps out of the palace and strolls toward the bustling marketplace. Locals immediately recognize him. One cheerful vendor invites him to join for breakfast, while others complain about the shortage of snacks in the kingdom. Light assures them he'll handle the matter soon, though May insists he leaves such trivial concerns to her, promising to fix the logistical issues quickly. As Light observes the growing city, he realizes a new logistics system will be necessary. The population has multiplied several times over in just 3 years. Curious, he asks May about his legendary summons. She reports that Yuki, the beast tamer, is out exploring the forests and mapping the dungeons nearby. Light knows those dangerous woods are no match for her exceptional skills. May continues, explaining that Ellie, the mage, is diligently researching a complex spell that's central to Light's grand design. He wonders if she can truly pull it off, given the intricate nature of the magic involved. When he asks about Naz, the vampire knight, fierce in battle but not exactly the brightest, May chuckles, saying she assigned Naz to patrol the castle grounds to keep her occupied and out of trouble. Light doesn't mind. Naz's antics bring some life to the palace. Before long, Light returns to the castle, where he's greeted by Jack, the last of his 4 legendary summons, who asks if he's ready for a training session. May grows irritated when Jack forgets to address Light properly as Master. but Jack simply shrugs it off, unbothered. Light laughs it off too, saying he sees Jack more like an older brother anyway and agrees to train. Inside the training arena, the two face off. With a sudden burst of speed, Light dashes forward, landing a solid punch to Jack's abdomen, sending him sliding back. Jack grins proudly, impressed by Light's growing strength, remarking that any ordinary adventurer would have been killed by that hit. But Jack's built tough, strong enough to take a beating. They clash again, trading blows until Light launches another flurry of strikes that Jack narrowly avoids. Meanwhile, Naz continues her patrol through the castle corridors, humming absent-mindedly until a group of maids greets her warmly. They praise her for keeping everyone safe and tease her with sweet compliments, which make Naz beam with pride, exactly what they were aiming for. Mischievously, the maids suggest she go check if Light's bedroom is secure, just in case. Delighted by the idea, Naz marches off to inspect the master's quarters. But as she reaches for the door, it swings open, and May steps out from inside. Naz blinks in confusion, wondering why May was in Light's room when he's clearly supposed to be at training. May's cheeks instantly turn red as she stammers, insisting that she was only cleaning Light's room while he was away. Naz, staying true to her duty, declares that she needs to inspect the chamber for any possible threats. Before May can stop her, the ever-clueless knight pushes her way inside and notices the bed in complete disarray. Naz tilts her head, commenting that it looks like someone had been rolling around on it, sniffing the pillows, and asks if May made it look that way on purpose. Thinking fast, May decides to play along and boldly claims that it's part of her special bed-making technique. Surprisingly, Naz buys it, her eyes lighting up as she asks if she can learn how to do it too. May quickly declines, saying it's a unique skill that can't be taught to anyone else just yet. Suddenly remembering something, Naz pulls out a rolled-up parchment and hands it to May. It's a note from the other maids, a not-so-subtle complaint accusing May of hogging Light's room and never allowing anyone else to clean it. Reading the message, May sighs but keeps her composure. She assures Naz she'll handle it personally, then discreetly slips her some coins, asking her to keep quiet about the matter. Ecstatic at the small bribe, Naz happily accepts and skips away toward the marketplace. There, she immediately starts eyeing all the delicious food stalls before settling on a plate of fluffy pancakes and a glass of fresh milk. Once full and satisfied, she heads back toward the castle, where she spots Yuki lounging on a balcony. Naz calls out, asking if Yuki's finished her forest duties yet. Looking slightly annoyed, Yuki lifts a parchment map she's been working on, saying she's already done with the survey and is returning to hand it in to May. Naz praises her efforts before returning to her usual patrol route. Eventually, Naz wanders into the empty throne room. Seeing no one around, she gleefully lets out a loud scream, echoing through the massive hall. Feeling mischievous, she climbs up onto the throne and begins to play around. But her fun abruptly ends when she accidentally snaps off a wing from one of the angel statues nearby. Panic floods her face as she hurriedly tries to stick it back in place before bolting out of the room in terror, desperate to avoid May's wrath. Meanwhile, back at the training grounds, Light and Jack continue their fierce sparring session. After several intense exchanges, Jack suggests they call it a day and hit the baths. Once inside the massive bath chamber, the two relax in the steaming water. Jack praises Light's rapid progress, saying his power has grown to the point where dungeon monsters would barely pose a challenge anymore. Still, he warns Light that there are enemies out there waiting for the right moment to strike. Light's expression hardens as memories of his betrayal from 3 years ago surface. With quiet determination, he vows that he won't rest until he's avenged what was done to him. Back in May's chambers, she summons 4 of the palace maids, the same ones behind the letter. Reading their message aloud, she demands to know what their problem is. The maids fumble for words, their earlier boldness gone. Nervously, they apologize, explaining that the letter wasn't meant as rebellion, but as a sign of concern. They just wanted to help ease her workload. May softens slightly, but still denies their request to clean Light's room. Instead, she assigns them a new task: to scrub the entire hallway leading to the throne room by hand. The maids gasp, protesting that the hallway is enormous, but May coldly tells them to get to work. It'll keep them occupied while she accompanies Light on a mission. Outside the castle, Naz once again finds herself staring longingly through a shop window at a shiny pair of gauntlets she can't afford. While she's lost in thought, she bumps into Ellie, who asks what she's looking at. Naz points to the gauntlet, then curiously asks why Ellie is back already. Wasn't she supposed to oversee the new construction? Ellie smirks, admitting that everything's running smoothly, so she decided to sneak in a little break. As the two walked together, Naz and Ellie soon began their usual bickering, this time over who was closer to Light and who held a more important place by his side. Ellie proudly declared that she was directly involved in Light's master plan for revenge, something Naz wasn't part of. With a teasing smirk, she added that she'd even shared a relaxing evening tea with him recently, where they discussed progress and future strategies, and hinted that next time she planned to invite him for a private dinner. Naz puffed out her cheeks, saying she wanted to share tea with the master too. She reminded Ellie that she specialized in close-quarters combat, so if Ellie ever needed help on the battlefield, she could call on her anytime. Ellie chuckled softly, promising she'd take her up on that someday. With that, Naz returned her usual brainless patrol routine. Back into the palace, the four troublesome maids were once again gossiping and plotting. Frustrated by May's strictness, they compared her to a certain angry little man from Germany, complaining about how controlling she was. One of them even suggested tattling to Light, but they quickly dismissed the idea. None of them wanted to face May's wrath again. As they talked, one maid pointed out that Light probably favored May because she was his very first summon. Another, the purple-haired one, reminded them that it took Light nearly 2 months to summon Yuki after that, meaning Light and May were alone together in the dungeons all that time. Jealousy immediately filled the room, and the maids started whining, rolling around, and acting dramatically before deciding to perform some voodoo nonsense to get May out of the picture. Unfortunately for them, May happened to overhear every word. She burst into the room, cornering them with a chilling smile. The maids instantly panicked, apologizing over and over, saying they were only jealous and didn't mean any of it. May sighed and told them to stop imagining ridiculous things. Back when it was just her and Light, he spent all his time mastering magic and training in every martial art he could, so there was no time for anything else. Relieved, the maids exhaled in unison. But May wasn't done. She explained that she'd actually come to lighten their workload, but after hearing this nonsense, she realized she'd been far too kind. So as punishment, she ordered them to scrub the entire throne room spotless. With no way out, the maids obeyed in silence, terrified of making things worse. While cleaning, the green-haired one accidentally knocked over the broken angel wing statue that Naz had damaged earlier. The piece hit the ground with a loud crack. All four froze in horror, assuming they'd done it, and knowing that if May found out, they were doomed. The next morning, Light entered the dungeon where Naz, Ellie, and Yuki were already waiting for him. He greeted them with a calm smile, though Naz and Ellie immediately started sniping at each other again. But before anyone could say more, a shadow moved, and a massive hellhound emerged from the darkness. The sight froze Light in his tracks. Even though he'd grown much stronger, the memory of that creature from 3 years ago clawed back at him, his blood running cold. His companions, however, were furious that the monster dared to upset their master. Naz drew her weapon, ready to slice it to bits. Ellie asked for permission to wipe out every last hellhound on the planet. Yuki calmly wondered if she could find hell itself and toss the beast into its deepest pit. The air around them crackled with power, and even the hellhound began to tremble, realizing it was hopelessly outmatched. But Light quickly composed himself and raised a hand, signaling them to stand down. He stepped toward the terrified creature and gently patted its head, reassuring it. He knew that if he gave the order, even as a joke, his legendary summons would actually destroy the entire species. Turning to his team, Light's expression hardened with purpose. "It's time," he said quietly. "We're heading to the surface. Our revenge begins today." And that's where this story ends. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next chapter. Elsewhere, Garu strolls through a town of beast people. As their local hero, he's being fawned over by everyone. One brazen fellow even offers to sell his sister, but Garu isn't interested. He notices a hungry human rummaging through refuse, and for no reason other than cruelty, detours to shove the child down and spit in his face. After that, Garu and his cronies retire to a private room to flatter him, metaphorically, glazing him, praising how he rose from a destitute slum kid to a frontrunner for the next chieftain. They point out that even the current chief recognizes his strength and ask how he managed to climb so far. Garu boasts that he trusts his instincts to pick profitable jobs. He recalls one from 3 years ago. He was paid handsomely to pose as part of a race unification party and eliminate a human suspected of being a master. He never confirmed the man's death, but given how weak the target seemed, Garu figures survival in the depths would have been impossible, so he thinks it's best to just leave the kid forgotten. At that moment, May appears, asking after Light. Garu's followers snap that she has no right to speak to him, but Garu says he's curious what she wants. May claims to be a maid in Lord Light's service and invents a story that Light was noble born. She's been scouring the continent for him. Garu is doubtful. The people who hired him checked Light's background, and Light never hinted at nobility. But May looks convincingly well-bred, and Garu smells a chance for profit. She asks Garu to lead her to Light's last known whereabouts so she can pay respects, even offering to compensate him with gold. Garu's instincts warn this could be a trap. It seems suspiciously lavish, but he dismisses the worry. Humans wouldn't be a threat to him. He agrees to guide her, pretending his motive is loyalty because Light was a good friend, though May knows he's lying and keeps up her act. A month later, the party nears the site where Light vanished. Garu never intended to honor the agreement. His plan is to attack May there and let her die like Light supposedly did. When they arrive, May collapses in sorrow, imagining Light's despair. Garu fabricates a tale of Light being ambushed by a monster and sucked into a teleportation trap, and his men start sealing exits so she can't flee. Just as they move to strike, May says that if she'd been with Light from the start, he wouldn't have been deceived by such scoundrels. Garu freezes. Only a few surviving party members and high-ranking figures actually know the truth of that day, and he lashes out, accusing her of being a spy for another race. May is outraged. She insists she is, and always will be, a devoted maid to Lord Light, and Garu's accusation is an offense punishable by death. Garu suddenly feels an overwhelming aura radiating from May. Despite her being human, every instinct in his body screams for him to run. Just as she's about to lose control and turn the area into a massacre, Light appears, calmly telling her to stand down. Garu is his target. The entire group freezes, stunned by his sudden arrival. No one heard him approach, and Garu can't believe his eyes. The man he was certain had died 3 years ago is standing right before him. Light coldly declares that he's back to settle the score, but Garu bursts out laughing. The idea of a level 15 human seeking revenge against someone like him, level 150, seems absurd. He figures if he kills Light and brings his body back, he'll be promoted to village chief instantly. Light sighs and asks if Garu isn't even curious how he survived. Garu dismisses it, assuming May saved him after he was teleported. Ironically, that's exactly what happened. With no further talk, Garu orders his men to attack. 2 beastmen rush forward, but before they even get close, their heads are sliced clean off by May. The others freeze, unable to even track her movements. Garu insists it was just luck, but panic spreads among his subordinates. Light thanks May for acting, but tells her he can handle the rest. Her job now is to make sure no one escapes. Trying to regain confidence, Garu mocks them, saying there's no way a couple of weak humans can beat his squad. Light, tired of the arrogance, tells him that the so-called superior beastmen are actually the weak ones here. Garu scoffs, saying everyone knows humans have low mana and are the weakest race. Light points to the decapitated bodies on the floor and asks if that's what strength looks like. Garu snaps that it was a fluke and launches himself at Light. Light closes his eyes and easily dismantles Garu and his men, hardly even moving. Garu hits the ground, eyes wide with disbelief. He didn't even see the attack coming. Standing over him, Light asks mockingly if this is really the best that the stronger race can do. Furious and humiliated, Garu shatters a necklace and summons a massive level 500 Fenra, boasting that this monster will finish Light once and for all. Light, unfazed, tells him that even a creature that strong is still too weak to challenge him. Garu assumes Light has gone insane from fear, demanding he kneel and beg for mercy if he wants an easy death. Light only shakes his head, sets his staff aside, and tells Garu he won't even move. He's free to attack with everything he's got. Convinced this is suicide, Garu orders the Fenra to unleash its howling beast blast, a strike powerful enough to obliterate a fortress. The explosion shakes the ground, but when the dust clears, Light stands exactly where he was, untouched and completely unharmed. Light can't help but feel a bit embarrassed that Garu had bragged so much about an attack that barely scratched him. He even finds it amusing that Garu keeps calling his summon a Fenra, when, in truth, it's barely strong enough to count as a Fenra pup. Pulling out a summoning card, Light remarks that he'll show Garu what a real Fenra looks like. A moment later, an enormous wolf god materializes beside him. A level 9,000 Fenra, a being far beyond anything Garu has ever witnessed. Light casually commands his summon to deal with Garu's creature, and with just a soft breath, the wolf god freezes the opposing beast solid in an instant. Seeing his prized summon effortlessly defeated leaves Garu trembling. Light explains that the display was just for show. He could have handled the fight alone. But he wanted Garu to understand how vast the difference between them truly is. To make it crystal clear, Light opens his status screen revealing his current level, 9,999. Garu's mind reels. He didn't even know that level was possible. Panic sets in as he begins to suspect that the man before him might not even be the same Light he once knew. But whether real or not, Garu realizes he's doomed. Dropping his weapons and pride, he falls to his knees, begging for mercy. He insists that he only followed orders from his superiors and never intended to betray Light. Ignoring the plea, Light tells him he has a few questions. First, he asks what Garu knows about the masters that his higher-ups were searching for. Garu admits he knows nothing. He was simply following commands. Light then asks why those same leaders ordered Garu's group to kill him after confirming he wasn't one of the masters. But again, Garu can't provide an answer. When Light turns to the other beastmen and questions them, they lie in hopes of being spared. But May instantly cuts them down, declaring that deceit in front of Lord Light is unforgivable. Returning his gaze to Garu, Light warns him not to lie again, since May's eye of judgment can detect falsehoods. He then poses one last question. Given Light's current strength, could he single-handedly win a war against the surface nations? Garu hesitates, but eventually admits the truth. While Light's power is unmatched, he's still just one person. Against entire nations filled with armies, weapons, and magic tools, victory would eventually become impossible. Light nods, satisfied with the honesty, and says he expected that answer. However, he has something else to show Garu. Using a teleportation card, Light transports both himself and Garu to his throne room. Garu shields his face, expecting punishment, but when he opens his eyes, he's left speechless. Before him stands an army, rows upon rows of powerful warriors, each radiating terrifying energy. Light ascends to his throne and commands his subordinates to display their levels. Garu's eyes widen as he realizes that most of them are above level 5,000, and even the weakest among them exceeds 1,500. Light then repeats his earlier question. Could he win a war against the surface now? The look on Garu's pale, trembling face is all the answer Light needs. Smiling coldly, Light says that, as a reward for answering truthfully, he'll forgive Garu for his past betrayal. But then he smirks and adds, "Just kidding." Instead, Light promises to make him suffer endlessly, a punishment so cruel he'll beg for death long before it comes. And Garu knows there's nothing he can do, for standing before him is no mere human, but a god of destruction incarnate. End of episode 3. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. After several months, Light finally emerges from the dark depths of the dungeons with his party by his side. Filled with hope, he decides to visit his old village, eager to show his family that he has grown strong enough to protect them for life. However, when he arrives, the joy in his heart is instantly replaced by horror. His village lies in complete ruin, Stunned, he rushes forward, unable to accept what he's seeing, and collapses to his knees in despair. May and the others comfort him, vowing to avenge the destruction of his home. The only fragment of hope left to him is that, among the bodies of the slain villagers, his family's remains are nowhere to be found. That small detail keeps him believing that they might have escaped the massacre and could still be hiding somewhere in the country. Weeks later, Light returns to the devastated village, this time with a calmer mind and two companions, a heavily armored knight named Gold and a silver-haired assassin named Nem. The sight of his shattered home once again pierces his heart, but he maintains his composure. Together, they dig graves for the fallen and lay flowers over them. As he surveys the destruction, Light realizes the attack must have been carried out by a powerful group of adventurers, likely from another race. While Light reflects, Gold grumbles about needing to find shelter before nightfall. Nem scolds him, insisting they give Light time to mourn. Gold replies that he'd follow Light into the highest mountains or the deepest hell, but insists they still need a safe place to rest. Their bickering lightens the mood, and Light smiles faintly, telling them he's fine now. He reminds them that while they possess enough power to challenge the entire world, they must still act carefully. Gold agrees, saying that victory comes from knowing one's enemies as well as oneself. Light nods, adding that they should first study the strength of every nation. He suspects the destruction of his village is tied to his identity as a potential maestro, a title once condemned by a secret society that had marked him for death. Furious, he vows to burn the world if that's what it takes to eradicate its evil. Nem trembles at the overwhelming aura radiating from Light, but Gold steadies him, warning Light to control his fury while they're within city borders. They can't afford a massacre just yet. Realizing his mistake, Light calms down and dons a grim, edgy-looking mask. The group then flies toward the city of Doggas. Along the way, Nem asks what their plan will be once they arrive. Light explains that they must first lay low and avoid drawing attention from the Concord of 12. To do that, they'll register as adventurers and gradually rise in rank. The higher their rank, the more information and influence they'll gain. Gold praises the strategy, but suggests they walk the rest of the way to avoid suspicion. Light agrees, and they descend into the forest. As they walk, distant cries echo through the trees. They soon discover a group of dwarves surrounding a man and his daughter, attempting to rob them. Spotting Gold's shining armor, the dwarves call out, but Light simply orders his subordinates to handle the situation. In moments, Nem subdues them with ease, leaving the dwarves bound and terrified. Grateful, the rescued man offers them a ride to Doggas. His daughter stares at them in awe. She's never seen humans defeat dwarves so effortlessly. The man agrees, admitting it's rare to find humans that powerful, and asks if they're a renowned adventuring party. Light shakes his head, replying honestly that they haven't even registered yet, a revelation that leaves the man completely astonished. The man tells Light that he's come to the perfect place to form a new adventuring party. The city of Doggas, he explains, lies right on the border of the Dwarven Kingdom and connects directly to both the human and elven realms. Because of this, the area thrives with endless dungeons, bustling adventurers, constant trade, and the occasional heated dispute. Doggas is especially popular among humans, though they still face discrimination in many regions. To counter that, the man proudly mentions that he runs an inn where everyone, no matter their race, is treated with equal respect. When they arrive at the city gates, Light and his companions step down from the cart, thanking the man for his kindness. He introduces himself as Colonel and warmly invites them to stay at his inn if they need a place for the night. Inside the city, the group is immediately captivated by its energy. Shops line every street corner, selling weapons and armor, while forges blaze with light as dwarven smiths hammer away at swords and shields. After taking in the scenery, they head straight to the Adventurers Guild, a massive hall buzzing with activity. Dozens of adventurers crowd around the quest boards, and Light notices that quite a few humans are among them. Yet even here, prejudice remains. The humans subtly step aside to give way to adventurers of other races. Choosing not to make a scene, Light walks to the registration counter to sign up his party. The receptionist processes their request, but assigns them a low rank, which instantly infuriates Nem. She snaps at the receptionist, demanding that she correct her mistake, insisting that Light's strength is far beyond that of an ordinary adventurer, worthy of at least S rank. But the receptionist smirks and dismisses her with a sneer, telling Nem to take her filthy human self elsewhere and accept the rank given. Before Nem can explode, Light steps in, apologizes politely, accepts the rank, and calmly leads his party out. Once outside, Nem bows her head in regret, apologizing for losing her temper. Light simply smiles and tells her to relax, suggesting they head to Colonel's Inn. Colonel welcomes them warmly and asks what they need. Light makes an unusual request. He wants to rent the entire upper floor of the inn for a full month, during which no one, not even the staff, is allowed upstairs. He apologizes for the inconvenience but insists it's important. He then places a heavy pouch of gold on the counter as payment, but Colonel hesitates, saying he can't accept money from the man who saved his life. Light insists, and after a brief exchange, Colonel reluctantly accepts. Upstairs, Light activates several magical barriers to ensure privacy and safety. He finally removes his cloak and mask, letting out a deep sigh of relief. As they relax, Nem expresses her concern again. She thinks Light should have stayed behind while she and Gold gathered intel instead. She worries about his safety, no matter how powerful he is. Her words strike a nerve. Light rises, his eyes filled with fury, and demands to know if she intends to deny him his revenge, to stop him from hunting down those who destroyed his village and slaughtered his family. A chilling aura of rage and death radiates from him, causing Nem to fall to her knees in terror. She pleads for forgiveness, saying she meant no disrespect. Realizing he's lost control, Light exhales and apologizes. He knows Nem only wants to protect him. The next morning, the group prepares to enter the dungeons. Dressed and armed, they join the long line of adventurers waiting at the dungeon gates. As they wait, 3 hooded figures arrogantly cut ahead of a group of young human adventurers. Their confidence alone enough to silence any protest from those behind them. Light instantly recognized that the hooded adventurers weren't human. While every other human party shrank back in fear, he stepped forward and told the men to fall back in line like everyone else. One of them spun around, eyes blazing with fury, shocked that a mere human had dared to speak to him that way. Calm and collected, Light warned him that if he truly belonged to a noble house, then starting a public scene wouldn't be wise. But the man clearly had anger issues. His hand moved to his weapon, ready to strike. Before things could escalate, another member of his group placed a hand on his shoulder, pulling him back. As they turned away, the furious one hissed a warning at Light, promising that this wasn't over. The human adventurers who had been watching broke into cheers, amazed that someone had finally stood up to the higher races. The young party ahead of Light, still impressed, asked why his group hadn't brought any supplies. They explained that this dungeon was enormous. Most parties needed several days to clear it, camping inside overnight. Soon after, the gates opened, and everyone began their descent into the dungeon, a vast, otherworldly realm crawling with beasts and ancient monsters. Once Light confirmed no one else was around, he activated concealment magic, hiding their presence, and then cast flight magic, allowing his group to soar through the dungeon undetected. Meanwhile, deep within the jungle, the enraged hooded man ripped off his cloak. Still fuming over being disrespected by a human, he drew a massive sword from his back, roaring that his name was Kaido, the youngest elf ever to become one of the White Knights, said to carry the blood of a master within him. In his rage, he tore through an entire pack of orcs, striking and decapitating them without mercy. His companion, a dark elf named Yan, urged him to calm down, but Kaido ignored him. He ranted about being stuck at level 1500 when most elves could only reach around 700. Even so, that limit frustrated him, and he swore he'd break through it no matter what it took. Back in the dungeon, Light's team had already cleared the 3rd floor, collecting every magic gem as proof of their progress. Deciding to call it a day, they prepared to return to the surface. As they ascended, Light admired the vast beauty of the underground world, and realized how much longer it would have taken to travel floor by floor without the gift of flight. During their return, they spotted the young adventurers from earlier battling a group of goblins. The kids fought well, showing solid teamwork, and Light watched quietly. But then he noticed danger. A bush snake creeping toward the mage in the back. He swooped down instantly, slicing the creature apart before it could strike. Landing beside them, Light advised the group to never get too focused on one enemy and always stay aware of their surroundings. The young adventurers bowed, thanking him for saving them. Just as things seemed calm, a pack of wolves burst out from the shadows. The young party panicked, thinking they were under attack, but instead, the wolves darted past them, fleeing in terror. A second later, the ground trembled, and a giant mantis emerged from the forest, its scythe-like claws gleaming under the dungeon's dim light. The young adventurers froze in fear, and standing between them and certain death was Light. But that's where this story ends for now. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss what happens next. Thanks for